Naruto Uzumaki became the greatest shinobi to ever live, right until the Boruto series nerfed him with paperwork and negligent father disease. But before then, we witnessed a meteoric rise from an orphaned, ostracized boy to the shining savior of the entire planet. But his story arc got me thinking about how difficult this path was for him and why that may be. Then it dawned on me. His mentors absolutely fumbled the bag, and we need to talk about why. Naruto is an Uzumaki with the 9 tails. Let's just let that sink in for a second. The Uzumaki were known for basically 2 things: huge reserves of life force energy and sealing jutsu. These are the direct descendants to Ashura, the sage of Six Paths Sun, and grandson to the mother of all chakra, Kaguya. You couldn't ask for a greater lineage to build off of, other than exactly the Senju and Uchiha, but that's another video. Then, just when you thought Naruto had all the tools already, you go ahead and give him the 9 tails, who is inarguably the strongest tailed beast, bar none. So we have a nearly divine lineage with incredibly deep reserves of chakra and a tailed beast with more chakra than any number of shinobi combined. So tell me why by the end of part 1, Naruto knew exactly 3 named jutsu and one of them he taught himself. Today, let's talk about the greatest missed opportunity in the Naruto series and how each of Naruto's mentors failed to convert on the greatest potential the shinobi world had ever seen. Now, I think the most important thing to consider here is that yes, the plot needed to happen, and sometimes that fact trumps the pre-established character traits and knowledge that some of his mentors should have operated upon. The out-of-universe reasons like Kishimoto didn't think of it yet, or he's the protagonist and the journey is more important than the cool jutsu we learned along the way are absolutely correct, but they don't even begin to justify the worst character assassinations since 50 Cent started talking about Diddy.
He says things, he doesn't even know what he's saying is like fruity.
Iruka is the only person I'm going to give a pass to in the slander fest that is about to come. He did a lot to humanize and teach Naruto that not everyone is a despicable piece of garbage that demonizes a child who lost his parents and sacrificed everything for their safety. I'm giving him a pass for the character work he did to progress Naruto to the point where he was ready to become a shinobi and embark on the legendary journey that we all love. But I'm also giving him a pass because Iruka, objectively speaking, is one of the weakest shinobi at the Chunin rank and really didn't have a lot to offer Naruto in terms of cool power-ups or knowledge in jutsu. Might Dai, who has the funniest foreshadowed name in all history, was considered below recognition by his peers, but still managed to take down several of the 7 swordsmen and learn the greatest taijutsu in experience. Iruka has no such feats to his name and literally has lost every single one of his on-screen fights. So with that all in mind, he gets the one and only pass for the video. Kakashi. Here's where the meat of the video begins. We know for a fact that Kakashi is one of the most premier ninja of his generation, considered a prodigy by many, and is a known name the world over. He managed to teach Sasuke the Chidori and train him to a point where speedsters like Might Guy and Rock Lee, who had devoted themselves purely to taijutsu, were surprised by Sasuke's ridiculous speed and agility. He did that in 1 month. He took Sasuke from someone barely able to beat Yoroi to someone who was debatably gonna beat Gaara and did beat version 1 Naruto. So why in the ever-living hell did Kakashi spend no time teaching Naruto? Let's look more specifically at one particular aspect that Kakashi later in Shippuden improved upon. When preparing to learn the Rasen Shuriken, Kakashi introduces the idea of chakra natures to Naruto. At the age of 16, Naruto's being taught about chakra natures and how he might be able to utilize elemental jutsu. How did nobody think to look at this prodigy in the making, who had proven himself by summoning 1,000 clones on what was effectively his first attempt, and perhaps offer to develop his skills? Kakashi has no excuse here, as the copy ninja, someone who has performed such a wide array of jutsu in his life, and has at some point utilized each of the 5 basic elements. There's no excuse here other than the fact that the sense of urgency to teach Naruto didn't exist until Itachi and Kisame came to the village. For reference, the threat of the Akatsuki is known by chapter 142. This is when Itachi literally tells Kakashi that the Akatsuki are hunting Naruto down. At this point, we should have no reason not to kick Naruto's training into high gear since everyone knows how much of a badass Itachi is. And if he's just one part of this organization, there's no telling how powerful the rest of the members are. And yet, do you know what happens? Kakashi pawns Naruto off onto Jiraiya and then disappears until the end of the series. That's nearly 100 chapters, roughly a third of the manga where Kakashi is purposefully useless. So to summarize, Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja, one of the most versatile and skilled shinobi of his era, spent 100 plus chapters teaching Naruto absolutely nothing. The same Naruto who is the son of Kakashi's beloved sensei, Minato. Instead, what Kakashi did is take some angsty kid who openly admits that his whole life is revolved around the murder of his brother teach him his signature jutsu, and ensure that he has all the tools necessary to defect from Konoha and get groomed by Orochimaru worse than... well, you know. Kakashi is a complex character with a storied and tragic history, but there's nothing I can say to forgive him for the treatment Naruto received from him and the absolutely horrendous living conditions that his sensei's son was forced to live in. Speaking of which, let's talk about the worst of them all, Hiruzen Sarutobi. This dude is a bum and there's nothing you can say to convince me otherwise. Hiruzen led Konoha through effectively 3 great shinobi wars since Tobirama died sometime during the first one. He's undoubtedly the greatest wartime general the shinobi world has ever seen. But in peace times, this dude deserves to be thrown in the gulag for the insane betrayal arc he put Kushina and Minato through. Hiruzen was the one to personally name Minato as his successor. When Minato and Kushina died, Hiruzen promised them personally that he would take care of their son, who was just burdened as an infant with what was effectively known as a death sentence, becoming the Jinchuriki to the most volatile, human-hating tailed beast, the Kyuubi. So of course, Hiruzen, one of the most powerful men on the planet, uses his near-endless resources, honors the deathbed promise he made to his beloved successor, raises Naruto in a loving home with fresh food, and trains the young lad to become worthy of his father's legacy. End of story, right? Right? No. What he instead does is leave Naruto to fend for himself and become the object of hatred for the entire village. Hiruzen did nothing as one of the most influential figures in Konoha's history to help this young orphan integrate into society. I mean, how hard would it have been to train him as an Anbu where he could hide in plain sight, be a part of something, and manifest the skills necessary to understand the great power he was left with? That's the least he could do. But instead, he occasionally checked up on Naruto along the aforementioned Gojo knockoff just to see how badly Naruto's home life was, then proceed to do absolutely nothing about it and act as if it's Naruto's fault that he's the way that he is, when he's never known a loving home. For some of you who may ask why Hiruzen would actually raise and protect Naruto, other than the sentimentality of raising Minato's son and honoring his promise to Naruto's dying, self-sacrificing parents, you have to remember that the shinobi world has been in constant warfare for the last 3 generations without pause, and Konoha has more or less won all of them on the backs of some incredibly shinobi who are now either all dead or defected. Hiruzen, a man well past his prime, as evidenced by his loss to Orochimaru, should have on his mind the thought that if Konoha were to enter a war at their current state, they'd lose handily to the likes of Kumo, Iwa, or even Kirigakure, who have continued their path towards propagating the next generation. If Naruto became the soldier that was primed and ready to stake his life for Konoha and strived every day with the support of his Hokage, the people of the village would have loved this incredibly devoted person whose sole purpose was to ensure their maintained peace and quality of life was preserved. Before I blow a gasket, let's move on to the most controversial mentor, Jiraiya. If I haven't pissed off everyone yet, hold out faith because I'm gonna badmouth everyone's favorite pervy sage. Before I do that, let me mention that Jiraiya is the GOAT and did so much character work for Naruto and did the best out of everyone connected to Minato to honor his legacy. He also had one of the greatest fights in the series versus Pain. That said, Jiraiya, in my eyes, is Naruto's worst sensei in terms of actually training him. I know a lot of you are going to jump in and tell me how he taught Naruto summoning jutsu, Rasengan, walking on water, and quite a few other things. But are you really going to sit there and lie not only to me, but yourself and say that Jiraiya did the best he could? Absolutely not. Naruto's time skip effectively accomplished nothing. He wasn't allowed to grow socially with the people of Konoha, he learned a grand total of 1 new jutsu, and gained absolutely no control over the Kyuubi. Let's not forget that Naruto still needed clones to perform the Rasengan after 3 years of training. It took Minato 3 years to make the jutsu from scratch and effectively perfect it. If you look at Boruto, who left on a 3-year time skip with the intention to come back and save his parents, the boy who left Konoha was not the same one that returned. He gained new jutsu and a sense of urgency and focus that Naruto lacked entirely. Boruto came back having learned Hiraishin, developed an entirely new variant of the Rasengan, Uzuhiko, and learned the entire Uchiha-style Kenjutsu. Effectively, the 3 years of time that Naruto and Jiraiya had were wasted on philosophy and perving out. Jiraiya had the idea to help Naruto control the Kyuubi, and would have likely manifested as KCM if he had actually succeeded. But was this gamble worth the potential loss of just sending him to Myoboku and having him learn Sage Mode? I know that Jiraiya's mission during this time skip was to gather intel on the Akatsuki, but why the hell did Naruto need to come along anyway? Even just learning Frog Kata early on would have given Naruto a basis to leap off of when he later learned Sage Mode and can control the natural energy around him. Ma and Pa are proven to be great teachers and effectively had nothing better to do than bring up the next generation of sages. Coupling this with the fact that Ma and Pa would have clearly known Minato as he was a summoner of toads, like Jiraiya, it's not like they would have refused to help raise and train Naruto. Jiraiya knew the threat that the Akatsuki was great, but failed to properly prepare Naruto for the perils ahead, which is why he scrambles at every opportunity to master a new technique for the battle that is already at hand. Rasen Shuriken with Kakuzu, Sage Mode for Pain, and KCM for the 4th Great Shinobi War. Imagine if Naruto had been properly prepared to actually fight the looming threat of an organization that Itachi would swear to. How many lives would have been saved? Chiyo, Asuma, Neji, and what would have likely have been countless more. I get that the plot needed to happen, and that Jiraiya needed time to teach Naruto the basics, but 3 years is longer than the entirety of Shippuden, and Naruto went from someone who could barely fend off Orochimaru with the help of the Kyuubi to someone who could no-diff previous Kage and fight god-level threats, and he accomplished all of this as a result of mentors who understood the threats at hand and trained their greatest asset accordingly. Naruto learned Sage Mode in a week, developed a forbidden jutsu, the Rasen Shuriken, in just a few days, and became the most powerful Jinchuriki in history after just a few days of training with B. I'm not saying Naruto's mentors were absolute trash, but thanks for watching. Do the YouTube stuff if you can. You're a goat for being here this long. Peace.